We multiply the fun, shape shifting, adapting to whatever comes.
As Dakota said, my name is Saul, part of the Bunny Growth Unit as well. Today will be the workshop where the developers will be showing you a lot of different features about the protocol. There's so many, so many that everybody can benefit from, whether you're an LP, normal retail trader. There's bound to be at least one thing you fall in love with when it comes to Bunny. Um, so yeah, you probably see me talk about it a few times, maybe on the TL or different appearances I've made. But today is really all about the founders that have put a lot of work into this product, and today they'll be showing you what it's all about. So I hope you guys enjoy it as well.
Yeah, hey everyone. Zach, you probably know me from Discord. One of the founding devs of Bunny and Timeless. Been working on Bunny V2 for a while, so excited to share some stuff with y'all.
Yeah, awesome. Hey guys, I'm Zephram. Nice to meet you all. I'm co-founder of Bunny, and I handle like all of the smart contract development. Yeah. So have a great workshop.
And yeah, nice to meet you, everyone. I'm McFly, working with Zeph on the user interface. So yeah, pretty happy to show what we got for you guys. We are working on that since the last 10 months. So you already saw what's going on testnet with Bunni.xyz. But we want to make sure that we can answer a lot of questions and yeah, try to understand better what you need, what we can do better, and other stuff. So yeah, let's go, Dakota, if you want.
Thanks. Let me pull it up. First off, just want to thank everybody in here who has been using testnets and giving feedback. It's really helpful for us as we get closer to mainnet launch, just to have a reference point for what's working well and what's working not, and where we can make improvements to make everyone's lives a bit easier. So thank you for all the feedback. It's been great. I don't know if all of you have been using testnet or not and how familiar you are with the interface, but kind of the plan here is to run through a little bit of what Bunny is for those who don't know, and then run through the UI and some of the features that make LPing awesome on Bunny, and why we think it's going to be a dominant deck moving into the future. Yeah, so as you probably know, Bunny V2's hook-based DEX built on the Uniswap V4 infrastructure. Our entire goal is to optimize liquidity provision and maximize profits for LPs. Probably know from using other DEXs and LPing other places that it's really hard to be profitable when you factor in things like MEV leakage or impermanent loss, these sorts of things, to actually come out on top as an LP. So all of our features that we've built into the Bunny V2 are aimed at making your life easier and more profitable. And by the way, if people have questions, feel free to jump in. I will pull up the chat here if I can. So if you have questions about specific things, please just let me know. In terms of the UI, wanted to start on the pool creation page because it highlights a lot of the core features that make Bunny great for LPs. Hopefully you've all played with it so far. If you haven't, please do. This is probably the component we need the most feedback on in terms of what works for people and what doesn't. I'm going to go ahead and start with this easy mode section right here. We've added these two options for people. One is, hey, I want to create a pool in 5 clicks. The other one is, I'm a big brain and I want to have granular control over every single parameter available to me. And there are a lot. We'll start with some easy mode. Should be pretty familiar with other dexes. Just going to select your tokens, select an initial price. Pretty straightforward. That's just the initial setup. Then we're going to get into some preset options. So these are going to be standardized setups for a lot of different token pairs. We kind of designed this to be around the most common pairs that people like to LP. So this is going to be stablecoin pairs, volatile stablecoin pairs like LSTs, your standard governance token ETH pairing, and then a Uniswap V2 style pool. I'm just going to pick one of these. Each one of these options is setting up basically all of the parameters available to you into specific formats that are going to be good for specific types of tokens. For example, the low risk stable pair is going to be a double geometric distribution centered tightly around a price of 1 that doesn't shift and has AMM enabled to maximize some revenue for LPs. If there are other presets y'all want to see, we can easily make those. So if there's some type of design you want in here, let us know. The other options available in this easy mode are going to be rehypothecation. Rehypothecation is one of the core new features that help make LPs more profitable in Bunny V2. And for those who don't know what this is, rehypothecation is taking assets that are outside of the current tick, so they're not being used for swaps at the current moment, and depositing them in other sources to earn extra yield. These sources can be anything from Aave or Compound, Gearbox. It doesn't matter. There are lots of different partners we have for different assets that we're going to be including as options on launch. And all this does is give LPs access to extra yield for assets that aren't being used. Depending on your pool setup, this has the potential to double your APR or even more, depending on what vault you're using and what the swap fees actually look like for a specific pool. And you can do this for each individual asset, right? You can enable rehypothecation for one token and disable it for another. All right, so that's like the basic pool creation. I'm going to go through advanced a little bit to show off some of the other features. The first one is going to be fee modes. So you probably all know fee modes from something like Uniswap pools. Uniswap pools, at least in V3, allow you to select from a bunch of different static fees. Those are usually 0.01%, 0.05%, 0.3%, 1%. So you get a few different options on Uniswap V3. Bunny lets you set whatever you want. You could set a 90% swap fee if you wanted to, or you could set a 0.9% swap fee. This is just a static fee that you can charge people to swap into your pool. So a lot more flexibility in something like Uniswap. We also allow for dynamic fee. I'm sure this probably exists elsewhere, but certainly not in Uniswap. And so we're really excited about a dynamic fee feature where you can set a minimum and a maximum swap fee for LPs in your pool. And you can scale that up however you want based on how far away the price of the pool is from the swap. So for volatile pools, periods of high volatility, the swap fee is going to increase to this maximum swap fee. The other big feature on the swap fee front that we're excited about is auction managed AMMs. So this is going to be the first actual implementation of AMMs. There was a paper written by Austin Adams, I think his name is, about the AMM mechanism. And this is a design mechanism meant to minimize LVR for LPs by basically auctioning off the rights to set the swap fee for a pool. So the way this works in Bunny is if you have this feature enabled, pool managers will pay rent to the LPs in exchange for being able to set the swap fee and collect the swap fee revenue. So as a LP, you're going to have really smoothed out earnings from the rent payments from these pool managers. And if there is no pool manager, it'll fall back to whatever mode you select, whether it's static or dynamic. We're excited about AMM. We think it should be enabled in almost all cases unless you explicitly don't want it, as it will be beneficial for LPs in the long run to have this enabled, as it just makes optimizing fee revenue way more efficient. All right, let me pause because I've been talking a while. The fee mode or fee-oriented features of Bunny V2. Zephram, McFly, feel free to comment on anything if I missed something as well. See a few people are typing here. I'll give them a sec. Yeah. I haven't seen a lot of other projects working on designs like this, so we're excited to get this into production as the first real implementation.
I have a question whenever you're ready.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, have you considered using Pendle for the rehypothecation strategies in addition to Gearbox?
It's a good question. Maybe Dakota is probably more suited to answer that. He's the one that's working on a lot of our partnerships for the rehypothecation, and I'm not sure where Pendle sits on that list. Yeah, I will say on that front that this isn't a actively managed thing by us. You can use any ERC 4626 vault that you want. So this is a permissionless system for you to use anything. That said, we will have some default options for people.
Will the UI enable me to effectively easily choose which pool to effectively earn, or is it require effectively me developing code in Solidity?
Depends. We have some options right here on the UI. If you click onto this plus button, there will be a list. Let me go to the next one because I think there's more. Yeah, so we'll have a list of all the vaults that have either been curated for you by us or have been used previously in pool creation. If you have something specific that you want, you can just enter an address and we will get it added here for you. That said, like if you're a developer and you want to create ERC 4626 for a specific asset, by all means, do it. We're not going to stop you from using your own vault for a pool.
Understood. And anyone can create a vault, is that correct?
Yeah, anyone can create a vault for sure. All right, I see a few questions here in the chat. One is related to external actors when it comes to active management. I assume related to the AMM. Maybe Zephram can chime in on this, but I think we'll initially have a permissioned list of pool managers. Is that right? Or is it totally permissionless auctions for this?
Right. So the auction is going to be totally permissionless. So anyone can decide to, bid in the auction and become a pool manager. Yeah.
So it could be anybody. We might create a user interface for this down the line. We sort of expect this to be more informed actors who are becoming pool managers and setting swap fees. All right, another question about rehypothecation. Is it easier to integrate with money markets, or how easy will it be to add other protocols? Again, if it's a 4626, it'll work out of the box. If there's like a big demand for something specific, like Pendle, for example, we might do some work to add wrappers to those if we need to get them integrated into Bunny.
Yeah, on that front, Yearn actually already has like some vaults that are 4626, and they also basically do the transitioning for you from one expiry date to a new expiry date. So that's something we could potentially use.
All right, another rehypothecation question. In the event that a dApp has rehypothecated liquidity, is at 100% utilization, Aave, for example, what happens? Yeah, so if there's no available liquidity in Aave for us, that can cause several problems. One is when we need to withdraw assets from Aave to be used for swaps, as liquidity shifts via the LDF functions, that would prevent that from happening. So I suppose like swaps would revert in that event. Same is also true for withdraws. So if you are withdrawing assets from a pool that's 100% utilized, and we would need to withdraw assets from Aave to complete your withdrawal, that would likely revert as well. So until that utilization drops and there's liquidity in Aave, you might get stuck in a couple ways. And this is why there's added risk with rehypothecation. It's not free yield. All right, any other questions on either fees or rehypothecation? Cool. All right. The next feature I want to talk about for Bunny V2 is liquidity modes, and specifically shifting liquidity. This is something that is going to be highly beneficial for keeping your liquidity in a pool as active as possible. And you can do that in a few ways. If y'all are familiar with other dexes that do shifting, usually it follows the TWAP in a specific direction. So you can kind of see these graphics here where you can center liquidity around a specific oracle price. And as the oracle price moves, your liquidity moves with it. You can do that in both directions. You can do that in one direction. So as the price of one token goes up versus the other, or the price of one token goes down versus another, or you can leave it static. This would be kind of similar to the current Uniswap V3 setup, where you create a position and your liquidity is static at that position between those price points. One of the things that's really cool about shifting liquidity is that it is really customizable, right? Some other dexes will only allow you to shift this or change this over a certain number of ticks, only in certain ways. And Bunny V2 just allows for a lot of flexibility on this front, where you can have massively wide liquidity distributions that can shift often or infrequently. And this kind of leads into the next feature, which is LDFs. So liquidity density functions are like the kind of the cornerstone of how Bunny V2 and our hook works. LDFs basically just enable efficient liquidity distribution, modification, and swaps with constant gas costs. So this is like, we want liquidity to be uniform across a certain number of price points. We want to create really complex things like buying the dip when a stablecoin depegs, or something slightly more complex but still pretty primitive, like distributing liquidity evenly on both sides of the swap, with most of the liquidity concentrated around that swap price. And you can adjust tons of different parameters here to accomplish varying things. Like you can increase like how much liquidity is on either side of the swap. You can adjust where the swap is. So you can accomplish lots of different things here. And I do want to point out that these are all building blocks. So you can create LDF as, simple or as complex as you'd like by combining multiple on top of each other. We've already done this, with an example by the dip LDF, but kind of the world is our oyster here. We can get increasingly complex with different liquidity shape strategies, or shifting between different shapes programmatically, or doing all kinds of crazy stuff by combining all of these different functions. And I know there's a lot of different parameters here. We've gotten some feedback on things that are complex or easy, or I just don't understand what this means or what I should use for specific token pairings. So we'll be updating our UI to help with this in the next few weeks. I think probably let me pause on the LDF and shape shifting stuff and take questions, and maybe Zephyr wants to chime in on this as well, as this is kind of his brainchild.
No, yeah, I wanted to mention like a couple of things. Like one is that the LDF, like LDFs are like completely permissionless. So like if you have a pool, you can use, any LDF you want. Permissionlessly, you can build new LDFs permissionlessly. We still need to like have like UI support for new LDFs, but like on the smart contract level, there is no like permissioning system for that. So this really opens up like a space for anyone to create these like totally on-chain liquidity strategies for managing your liquidity. And like all the shifting is done on chain, like it's part of the like AMM itself. It's not done by like having like external keepers to like update your positions every so often. It's like built into the design. And this is why like these features like are exclusive to Bunny. Like you will not see anything remotely as powerful on any other decks, because like they have a fundamentally like I want to say inferior, but it's like last generation design. and and yeah, this is like part of why we think Bunny will succeed.
And pause for a sec in case people have questions. Yeah, okay. So questions about rebalancing. I think we've been chatting over the last day or so too. That kind of just is the next thing I want to talk about. So rebalancing. Yeah, okay, second opinion. All right. So rebalancing is basically a way for pools to get tokens back into the correct portions if they become imbalanced. And this is done autonomously and on-chain, where pools can submit swap orders for one token for another to basically get those token ratios back into balance. The easiest way to think about this is like a Uniswap v3 position that shifts. So imagine like a uniform position like this, where you're saying, okay, I'm going to start it off with half the liquidity on one side, half the liquidity on the other, and I want to keep liquidity centered around the Oracle price. Now, let's say like a day later, the price of the token has changed such that the weightings of the tokens in the pool are imbalanced. So instead of 50-50, you have 90% on one side and 10% on the other. What this means is that a large portion of your liquidity in this pool isn't utilized for swaps. It's fundamentally reduce the amount of liquidity available for swaps. This is fine if that's how you want the pool to behave. But if you want to say, let's maximize the efficiency of the liquidity in the pool by allowing 100% of it to be available to swappers at any given point in time, you need to turn on rebalancing. Rebalancing says, hey, we're going to take this 90%, 10% uneven token weightings, and we're going to even them back out to 50-50. So we can maximize the amount of liquidity that can be used for swaps. I think this is done in some places via keepers potentially. I don't know. I'm not like super up to date on all of the different dexes out there. As far as I know, nobody's doing this autonomously on chain. And again, you can just disable this if you want to. That said, if you're not using rebalancing, the weightings of tokens in the pool are going to become imbalanced at some point, and you're not going to be utilizing them as efficiently as you can be with rebalancing enabled. Again, probably an area Zephram is well equipped to answer his details on. You probably want his opinion too.
Yeah, I can say a few words about it. So, like Zeth mentioned, like for positions that are shifting or changing shape, you definitely want to have autonomous rebalancing to maximize your liquidity, like your capital efficiency, basically. How much of your assets are being used for swaps. And so like I'll go a bit deeper into rebalancing. So the way that the swaps are actually executed is through intense protocol. We're using flood.bid. And essentially, every time the pool detects that, the tokens are out of ratio, out of balance, then the pool would submit an on-chain intent to basically execute a swap to get back to the optimal ratio. And essentially, like, fillers will execute these swaps. And currently in our design, we have a whitelist of fillers to execute these rebalance swaps, but also the AMM manager of the pool is automatically given the right to execute the swaps. And that process is permissionless. So, yeah, like this is like the kind of nitty gritty of how the rebalancing is actually done.
Follow-up question in the chat. So from how is this different to have gyro ECLPS shifts? I'm not familiar with what that is. Maybe you are.
I'm not too familiar with their architecture. I know that they do some kind of shifting, but I'm not sure how they like keep the tokens balanced.
Well, I'll do some reading after this call though. The last thing I want to mention is just around auto compounding fees are baked into Bunni.xyz default. There's no manual compounding that happens, as it's either earn yield from vaults or from swap fees that are immediately used for the next swap. You're continuously compounding your yield, unlike a lot of other places. Even Bunny V1 will compound on every interaction with the pool. So this is going to be continuing compounding and a lot more efficient for LPs. Yeah, I just wanted to mention that, compounding is built in by default and is continuously happening. And this kind of makes APY a bit more relevant because you're actually compounding. all of the fees automatically.
There was another question in the chat, which was if when liquidity shifts, does it rebalance as well, or can liquidity shift without rebalancing?
Yeah, I can answer that. Like, it can shift for sure. It's just that if it like shifts by a lot and the tokens are like uh very out of balance, then the capital efficiency would suffer. But that could be like a valid strategy if you know you're using rehypothecation, in which case you might not care that, oh, like, you know, this portion of the tokens are not being used for swaps because they would be used for, you know, being lent out instead.
Or what could that pose any issues or anything different on the user experience when they get offered a quote?
For sure. Like, I suppose the liquidity could shift in such a way where it becomes one-sided at some points. Where if you're, yeah, basically like you're providing liquidity on one side of the price, and there's no liquidity going the other direction.
Gotcha. All right. Oh, sorry, Essie, do you want to go?
No, I was just going to say that kind of wraps up some of the main feature set I wanted to talk about. We'll have lots more to share in follow-up workshops, but yeah, I wanted to talk about the main features and why they're good for LPs and answer some questions if y'all had them. But that kind of concludes what I had prepared.
And thank you very much for this. Thank you everyone for listening as well. We'll be here for a little bit in case you do have questions, anything that we didn't go over. Or maybe you want like a recap for, as you know, for one of the features that we do have on the protocol. But yeah, we'll be here for a bit. Definitely want to say thank you to all the founders for joining us today. There's another version of these workshops that we should be planning for September, so not too long from now.
Bagel, I saw a question in the general chat around swap costs if the LDFs become more complex. Probably another Zephram question that I have answered.
So the question is, are pools that are more complicated more expensive to swap through?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it really depends on where the complexity comes from. So we know that if you compose like multiple LDFs together, then that would increase the gas cost because you essentially have to like iterate through those like sections. But if you're able to like build an LDF that has a complex shape and it's not composed of other LDFs, but it's like its own thing, uh, then uh, then it would not necessarily be more expensive. Yeah, and the automation features like shifting, rebalancing, those don't really affect the gas costs of swaps. And oh yeah, so regarding the previous question about gyroscope and the ECLPs, I think like their their shifting feature is restricted to only for the case where you know you have a yield bearing token in the pair, and you want to basically account for that yield accrual. For instance, if you have like wrapped ETH from Lido or Rocket Pool ETH, then like exactly how that price changes over time. In which case, like it makes sense to just like adjust the position based on that. And I think in that case, you don't really need any kind of rebalancing because the price change is purely coming from, like the shifting is purely coming from that yield accrual. But for Bunny, it's totally different because you can programmatically specify, how you want the position to shift or change shape, in which case you do need rebalancing.
We did have one question on whether users are getting rewards. I am inclined, or what I believe is being asked is that if people are getting rewards for attending this workshop. I don't believe so. I don't think we've communicated that. If there has been any correspondence, someone please let me know. But as far as I know, no, there are no rewards. Okay then. Yeah, guys, any final comments? I think it's reaching towards its peak.
An advanced Christian full flow.
Yeah, one more question. Go on, Essie.
No, these are the different parameters for all of the pool creation settings don't affect gas costs of pool creation, most of them at least. All of the things for the LDF specifically are not going to affect the gas cost of deployment. All of those parameters get encoded into a bytes 32, and it gets passed into the call no matter what. So it's going to be constant with all of those things.
Thank you, sir.
I did want to mention one last thing. Just about an hour ago, I pushed some updates to the UI, mostly focused on the user dashboard. I did want to mention that one of the features we've built into Bunny v2 is a referral system where you can earn a portion of swap fees for referring liquidity to Bunny v2, and earn and claim those rewards continuously through the dashboard. So that got pushed this morning. Please check it out. Worth noting that it's a permission system. It's because it's the easiest way to reduce gas costs of these things. Otherwise, it would increase the gas cost to deploy pools pretty significantly.